Captain Midnight.
I think if the first few seasons of The Office are about anything, it's the idea that 21st century work culture is insufficient to satisfy the deep interpersonal relationships that we need and crave as human beings. That this sanitized way of interacting with the people you see almost every single day is more a simulacrum of real relationships and not a substitute for them. For some characters, like Stanley, that just doesn't matter that much. His life is at home with his family, and he's fine just getting through the day. Jim and Pam both feel like their lives are missing something, but steal away small moments throughout the workday for themselves with each other. Something that's clearly really important to them, even if they try to act casual about it. And then there's Michael, a man who will not accept that office life just cannot fill all those needs for him. And with his authority as manager, is dead set on making sure Dunder Mifflin functions both as his close friends and family. A place where he can finally see himself and be seen as the person he's always wished to be. Season 2, Episode 5's Halloween is a fantastic example of exactly that. And since it's that time of year, I thought there's no better time than now to talk about it. Before I do though, we are inching closer and closer to that 750k subscriber mark. If you haven't subscribed yet, I definitely appreciate it, along with sharing this video if you know someone who really loves The Office. With that out of the way, let's talk about Halloween. I try not to do too much plot summarizing in my videos, but it is probably helpful for a 20-year-old sitcom episode. So for those who don't remember the specifics, this is the episode where it's revealed that Michael has been procrastinating on firing someone for the entire month of October and now has to do it on Halloween. Meanwhile, Jim and Pam are pranking Dwight by trying to land him a job out of state, only for it to become crystal clear that it's something Jim himself should apply for. Michael ends up firing Devin, by the way, in a very memorable scene. Digging deeper into the episode, I don't think who Michael is going to fire is all that suspenseful. There's a minute where it looks like he's mad at Jim, and Jim could get the axe, but anyone familiar with the structure of sitcoms knows it's probably not going to be anyone from the main cast. But Halloween doesn't get its drama and comedy from the question of who is going to be the one leaving. No, its real strength is in depicting just how horrible Michael is at handling it. The concept that Michael has to fire someone is a simple one, the kind of straightforward story that you can only really do this early on in the show's run. And man, did they make the most of it. Michael having to lay someone off for purely financial reasons is his nightmare scenario. It destroys the fantasy of Dunder Mifflin Scranton as a fun-loving family that he so elaborately constructed in his head. Bosses describing their companies as family is nothing new, of course, but most know that that's basically nonsense and are using the phrase very cynically, almost as a cudgel. Not so with Michael. Not only does he want it to be true, on some level, he needs it to be. Outside of The Office, he is clearly leading a very empty life, at least at this point in the show. His employees and their admiration are everything to him, as delusional as that clearly is. So when someone has to go, it's less that he feels bad for whoever he chooses, though probably that too, to be fair. It's that he's desperately afraid of doing anything that will put him on the outs with everyone else in the office. Jumping to the end of the episode, one of my favorite scenes from season 2 is Michael sitting there miserable at what remains of the office Halloween party, with just Dwight, Angela, and Creed still around. Everyone else left after Devin did, the holiday mood clearly destroyed. And Michael can really only process this in purely high school terms. He thinks he's chosen poorly, saying that he didn't know Devin was so well liked in the office, and now here he's left with the losers. The cool kid table doesn't want anything to do with him. This is, of course, not really the case. He's managing an office, not running for prom king, but Michael is far too needy to ever see it that way. Seriously, it drives me nuts that this scene is only in the superfan longer cut of the episode. It just feels so essential. I mostly want to talk about Michael here, but I should probably touch on the subplots. I think they actually really underline the theme of his story as well. Michael desperately wants the office to be a group of real friends and family, something that goes beyond the dull, everyday reality of work life. Jim and Pam, though far more self-aware, are also kind of pretending. They act like they're just killing time, having fun goofing on Dwight to get through their boring day job. But when push comes to shove, like Michael, working at Dunder Mifflin is kind of the most important thing to them. There's an opportunity on the table for Jim here, one that pays double what he makes now, in a nearby state that he even says he wouldn't mind moving to. There's no reason for him not to go for it, except his relationship with Pam is the most important thing in his life. It's not as delusional as Michael, and obviously it ends out working pretty well for both of them, but I like that the episode goes to great length to show that in some ways, the three of them are far more alike than they might look. They're all searching for something deeper at work, and trying their best in very different ways to create meaning out of a pretty soul-crushing environment. On that note, the way this episode uses Halloween works so perfectly too. Future Halloween episodes would really lean into big costumes and pop culture references. There's nothing wrong with that, it leads to some funny moments, but this Halloween goes in a different direction. Everyone's costumes are so boring. There's no real event here, it just feels like another day at the office. Something that really helps maintain the more grounded tone that the show still had in season 2. Getting back to Michael, while I wouldn't say that this whole firing saga is the character's lowest moment, like let's face it, there's a lot of competition there, it's definitely in the running, as Michael manages to make this choice about who is going to lose their job today completely about himself. I love that he seems to view it purely as a popularity contest. He barely seems to look at this as a business decision at all, but as a choice of who he has to kick out of the friend club. I love the scene where he asks Toby if it's possible to fire him, and then does the same for Hank, the security guard, just looking for an easy way out when there clearly isn't one. By the way, I think both of those scenes were actually only in the longer cut of the episode that's online now. Those are definitely worth seeking out if you haven't seen them. In his run-through of the firing with Jim, we see Michael's worst fear, that the person he lays off will melt down and make him feel bad. The fun irony of the episode is that, in the end, it's Michael making the whole situation about himself that leads to this nightmare playing out. Instead of handling this, let's face it, very cold and money-driven move with any sort of professionalism, he basically lets Creed argue his way into keeping his job. And Creed, being Creed, is more than happy to throw Devin under the bus. The actual firing scene is brutal. Devin, dressed as a hobo, receives the news while in costume, an added layer of humiliation that was always going to be there thanks to waiting until Halloween to do this. Michael stumbles through the conversation, and Devin's response is immediate and raw, and then creates a huge scene in the office. But for all of Michael's mistakes in this episode, I think the final scene is him at his best, and it shows what he most wants out of life. After the disastrous firing, we see Michael alone in his condo, sitting on his couch in dim lighting, clearly stewing over the reality that someone genuinely hates him now. Then the doorbell rings, and he heads out to give some candy to the trick-or-treaters. For a minute, Michael gets to be his best self, someone who makes people happy, somebody who's appreciated and actually liked. The kids don't care about his failures, they just see a friendly guy with candy. It gets to the emotional core of Michael Scott's character. He's profoundly lonely and has built his entire personality around avoiding that feeling. And the trick-or-treaters give him a small, uncomplicated human connection, something Michael really wants, but usually can't achieve in the office. So those were a few thoughts I had on Halloween. If you stuck around, I really want to give you an update on the comic series I am writing, Binary C. I know we've been working on issue 2 for a long time, but man, Jason is sending me new art from it almost every day at this point, and I am so excited to get this in front of everyone early next year. If you want to read issue 1, check out the digital version on Amazon Kindle for $3.99. That's for a comic longer than what you're going to get from Marvel or DC. The reviews have been really great to see too. Fred from Brazil said, "Good art and well-paced story. Got me very curious for what comes next. It's an enticing story. I have high expectations for future issues." Thanks for that, and check it out if you have any interest in sci-fi or pirates. If you have Kindle Unlimited, it is completely free to read. You can check that out, read it, and leave a review at the link down below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next week.
Here's a special tip for the fellas and girls who have not already joined Captain Midnight's new 1940 Flight Patrol. You'd better hurry up and join at once because there's a big adventure ahead. The thing to do now is to get started because we're going to have not only barrels of fun, but loads of free gifts and prizes, too.